Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, a triathlon podcast where Tim Ford and James Bale talk all about triathlon. It's in the name. My name is Tim Ford. That is James Bale, and we are back. Jimbo, mate, how you going?
I am not too bad, mate. Life's all right. It's very, very, very busy this week. It's reached a height of stress and anxiety that I'm not used to. But other than that, I'm all right. How are you doing?
Makes me think of the Avengers movie where they say to the Hulk, to Eric, like to Bruce Banner, like, "What's your
I'm always
secret?"
angry.
I'm always angry.
Yeah.
It's like I'm always stressed and I'm always anxious. That's
Yeah.
that's my permanent state of existence. No, good mate.
That's why someone sent me a message the other day and just said, "I hope you're not," because they know I've been working hard. I hope you're not too knackered. And I was just responded with, "I'm always too knackered."
Yeah, things I'd say about you: always too busy, always too knackered, always getting sick. So
Yeah, there you go.
that's
There you go.
the Bale trio. But no,
16th of October, though, mate. I'm coming off my immunosuppressant medication, motherfucker. I'm back.
well, don't forget this is the month where, guys, every person who joins up or is a member of our Talking Triathlon Patreon, give it the plug now, patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. Their support will go towards James Bale's marathon fundraiser. James is racing the London Marathon for his 40th birthday next year. And for the month of October, every dollar that we raise through Patreon is going to go to that cause. We're going to do the bonus month, the bonus show. We're going to talk about the marathon and stuff. But yeah, no, apart from that, mate, apart from being busy, what else? It has the training. I know you're back from France. Like, what's been
Yeah,
going on?
training's good. I did 15 sets of 400 meters on the treadmill yesterday,
Hmm.
and a max effort session on the turbo trainer this evening. So yeah, it's all coming together. I'm just building up, doing a bit of a speed block right now. So the long runs are only about 14K at the weekend, but I'm doing a lot of work in the week.
And you said you're doing bike rides. What's the wattage? What are you looking at?
It depends. It depends. Today I was doing between 30 seconds, 1 minute, and 2 minute max efforts. For my 30 seconds, I was over 400 watts, I would say.
Jesus, well
For my
done.
for my 1 minute, I was 320, and then for my 2 minutes, it was more 270 to 300.
Good on you. There you go. I did a 20-minute time trial on the pool on Friday. Like after we recorded last week, I went to the pool and did a 20-minute time trial. So basically, swim as hard as you can for 20 minutes and measure to the closest 50 meters. What do you reckon? What do you reckon I did in 20 minutes? Oh, he's thinking. He's looking very pensive. You're probably going to say
K
something
and a
huge, and
half,
I'll be like, sorry?
K and a half, K
That
and a
was
half.
1,450 meters.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Fucking
1,450
nailed it, didn't
meters.
I?
What was it, 124 pace or something like that. So
Nice, good
I,
work.
I do love you send it to your coach. I'm like, because it's further than I did the last time I did the test. And he's like, we'll get it to 1,500. I do love it. But
How
no,
blown out were you at the end of that?
I think I started pretty blown out. And that's why I was fine with those sort of, high effort things. It's probably the same with cycling or anything. You feel a little bit good, and then you go from feeling really good to quite bad. And then you sort of settle into it. And then in the end, you're hanging on for dear life. So, I mean, I wasn't dead. Like, I think it's 20 minutes, right? It's not like a maximum effort sort of thing. But no, yeah, pretty happy with that result. So that's that. Um, yeah, we are here to talk all about triathlon, and I think we should probably start, man, because there was a race that happened, or there was actually two races that happened over the weekend in the party island of Ibiza. I know you were there partying it up. I know that wasn't for T100. That's been some other time probably. But let's talk about the racing a little bit. How much of it did you watch? What about the broadcast, the thing? Like, where do you want to start?
I watched probably all of the men's race,
Hmm.
and then I had to go out midway through the women's race, and I sort of monitored it as I was walking around town. Um, I thought the broadcast was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the men's race a lot. I thought it was interesting that Ali Brownlee got the first ever drafting penalty the T100 has ever issued to anybody.
Yep.
It's they must have decided that drafting penalties are actually a necessity in professional triathlon racing. And in
Crazy.
this instance, only two people, because one of the women got one as well. Debutante, I can't remember her name. But yeah, only two people must have actually drafted this race because it was Alistair Brownlee and I can't remember the women's name. Do you remember who it was?
No, no
Darren,
idea.
Julie Darren, wasn't it?
No, what was it? Because she came second, didn't she?
I think
No.
so. Somebody. Anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there. But yeah, I mean, from the outset, I called Martin Van Riel for the win on the men's side,
I think we both did, yeah.
if I'm honest, I know that he was running shoulder to shoulder with Sam at the beginning of that run, but in my head, it didn't look at any point like it wasn't going to be Martin's for the win. In my opinion, did you? I mean, only that you watched bits of it, did you?
To be honest, I did not know the men's race was on the Saturday. I thought the whole thing was Sunday. So I sort of got caught unawares. I was out doing some family stuff, and I guess there was like a sort of panic. Oh God, I'm missing the racing. And then I did see the tail end of the women's race. I know the results and everything, but I only saw snippets. Like, I think I missed the entire swim and bike. I put it on for the run, and I saw Martin and Sam running shoulder to shoulder, and then I did something. I can't remember what I was doing. And then it was the result was up. And then when I got home, I put it on that, and I saw the women basically for half the run. And so I just when I knew that it was Sam and Martin running shoulder to shoulder, and again, no disrespect to Sam Laidlaw, again, incredible athlete, but looking at where they're at in their year, Sam being, a couple of weeks out from Hawaii, so in the thick of a build compared to Martin, who's focusing on the T100 series, I wouldn't have expected it to be any other way. How long did they stay shoulder to shoulder? Like, how long did that battle continue for?
It was very much until almost the end of the run. He was sort of 3K maybe from the finish when he broke away. But when he broke away decisively.
Hmm.
It was it was an interesting race. I mean, the swim, Van Riel was first out the water, followed by Bogan. Then a load of athletes followed them out. Um, Brownie got a drafting penalty on the bike. Sam Laidlow was just constantly trying to animate the bike. He was at the front. He was asking people to come around and take a pull. They pretty much weren't. There was a couple of athletes that did. Frederick Funk took a pull for a while, but he didn't last. And then later in the bike, Laidlow tried to break away again. Again, he tried to be a decisive breakaway on the bike, but he didn't manage it. And then they came out of transition, and it was pretty much and Sam and Martin Van Riel throughout the run, running shoulder to shoulder. Um, Bogan was first out of transition, but they took the lead fairly quickly. Um, and then Van Riel attacked. It was, I think he had 3K to go, and it was just boom. You could see that Lalo wasn't going to be able to up the pace to try and catch him. Initially, it looked maybe like he might, but I think it was foreshortening of the camera. And then when you got that overhead shot, it was like, yeah, he's moving. And unless something dramatic happens to this man, the squishy is going to take it again.
The watching I guess they had they put up the brief highlights. I was watching that the other day. Did Martin attack at one point, Sam bridge back up, or was there an attack and it never came back?
I think it was the attack and it never came back.
Okay.
Rhymes nicely.
Man, honestly though, Sam Laidlow is really, really impressing me with these. He started so terribly at the start of this year, and I thought he was just sort of going through the motions a little bit. But like to do what he did in London and keep away Kyle Smith, and now to go shoulder to shoulder with Sam, secure second place. Like he's racing really well, and like he's kind of, he's earning my respect. I mean, not that he didn't have it, but like I'm quite impressed with the way that he's sort of conducting himself at these races. But I mean, for me, Martin is the chosen one. So I'm going to be picking Martin Van Riel for almost every race he enters at the moment, except maybe 70.3 was been an interesting one to sort of discuss later in the year. But uh, what do you think of the actual race? Like compared to last year, the field, how'd you feel about it? The excitement, the broadcast, everything?
I was as impressed as I ever am with the T100 broadcast. I think it's better than what Ironman have been putting out. The commentary is better. I still think there are issues around lack of branding on boardings and road cones and stuff.
Hmm.
I'm sure these are things that are going to come once they. I think road cones have got no place in professional sport, or witches' hats as you would call them. I think it was no better and no worse than any T100 broadcast we've seen so far.
I did see a lot of like blank barricades and stuff, and I thought, oh, just put some branding over it or something. But no, that's good to hear. I, well, can you
The
have you?
final results on the
Yeah,
men's side with
thanks.
Martin Van Riel in first, Sam Laidlow in second, Mika Newton in third, and Alistair Brownlee in fourth, and Frederick Funk in fifth. Alistair Brownlee in fourth place, despite getting a penalty. Now, if he hadn't got the penalty, he'd have finished in third, eh?
Really. Good on him.
which
It's
is
good.
where I placed him and got ridiculed for last week.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, mate. Did he finish third? No, shut the fuck up. No, it is good to see him. It is good to see him sort of starting to come back to some form. Which the other. I mean, some interesting. Can you get through the full list of results? Because I do remember there being a few quite fascinating. In fact, I can try to bring them up while I'm talking, because there are a few people that weren't anywhere near where I sort of expected them to be, just based on recent results and things like that. Do you have it there?
I'm trying to find it.
Just go to the PTO website. I'll quickly bring it up
Yeah,
as
I'm on
well.
it. I'm on it. I'm on it.
Because where did Yuri Kulin finish? I think he came off the bike quite far back, but he ran his
Van
way through
Riel,
the
Sam
field.
Lalo, Mikanu, Alistair Brownie, Frederick Funt, Lopez, Bogan, Maximilian, Yuri Kulin was ninth.
Yuri Kulin was ninth. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Magis Magier.
Bradley Weiss, Peter,
Aaron
Matt.
Royal, Beckegaard in 12th. Casper Stepanak in 13th. Leon Chevier in 14th. And
Yeah.
then, it just kind of trails backwards.
Mm. But again, like again, sort of said at the start, to me, it was always going to be Martin at the front. Yeah, there's a few names there that I would have expected to see further up. Daniel Becker guy, but again, throw that down to Kona build.
Absolutely.
Leon Chevalier is an athlete that I have really been surprised that I would have, I think Leon is such an incredible athlete that I would have expected him to be higher up this year, but he has, maybe it's just that swim. I'm not, we hear a lot of people talking about the impact of the bikes and stuff. Maybe it's that, but Frederick Funk did that great race in China. So to come back and get fifth here was really great. Our boy Rico, don't know, would have expected him to be a bit further up.
Rico in 7th.
Yeah.
Leading out the swim, and he went for it like he always does. He was first out of T2, passed into third place, and then faded backwards to finish 7th. But like you say, I think the key takeaway from this race on the men's side is how dominant Martin Van Riel is and how unstoppable he seems to be. If you look at uh, the standings at the moment, he's in 4th place with 70 points. He's 9 points behind Magnus Ditlev, who's in 1st place with 79. If he keeps going the way he is, then I could see him winning this series. And I could probably see him winning the 70.3 Worlds as well.
I mean, yeah. The only 70.3 worlds little asterisk I'd put is Hayden Wild. That's to me going to be a pretty hard obstacle for a lot of people to overcome at the moment. But what was I going to say then was around, did you notice the athletes who weren't there? Because one of the things that has been discussed on the WhatsApp group in particular, but we've been talking around how, or even in the sport in general, right? The fact that maybe the season long narrative idea isn't actually working quite the way that they expected it. Um, what do you think about that? Like, did you notice that like the Magnuses weren't there? There's one name on the list that I did really notice wasn't there, which was Javier Gomez, which made me question like, has he actually retired now? Is he
Yeah,
done?
yeah, that was strange, wasn't it? Because they really put a lot of emphasis on the social media into the Gomez Brownlee race again, and then suddenly he wasn't. Did you get to the bottom of why he wasn't there? Was because
No,
it made me think he had actually just retired on the spot, maybe.
that's what because I think I was asking that question in the WhatsApp group after. And people said to say that they thought he had like retired effectively immediately, whereas I thought he was still doing some races. So maybe he's just withdrawn from the T100 series, been like, actually, I'm just going to pick a few races that I want to do. I can't, I'm not going to compete at that series anymore. I'm not sure. It'd be nice if we got some answers, but
Mm.
I didn't. I mean, I think there's a few names on there that had they been there, they definitely would have impacted the race. But I mean, yeah, I just think that. I mean, Carl Smith, I think is a big one. Magnus makes an
Yeah,
impact.
Magnus. I mean, but you're gonna get Carl Smith obviously through injury.
Yeah.
Magnus, Kona build. That's the problem with this part of the year and Kona being what it is. You're gonna have people who are gonna prioritize that race, both from a what they want to achieve in the sport perspective, but also a sponsor and a value perspective for trying to earn enough money to get through the year. So yeah.
Do
But
you
another
think?
takeaway for me on this was Alistair Brownlee. I think watching him come into some form despite the bike penalty and actually finish in a position just off the podium was really good for the sport and shows that he's heading in the right direction.
I think he's going to be a threat in Las Vegas, especially it's a hilly course from what I hear. Um, the last thing I want to touch on before we move to the women's race is around Sam Laidlow. Uh, at this point in time for me, or before this race, there's only one person I'd be picking for the win in Kona, which isn't Sam. But you know, but what he did in Nice, and then the fact that he was the way he was in London and now here, does this change your, I guess, view of what could happen in Hawaii? Like, are you suddenly looking at Sam as more of a threat for, to defend his world title?
I don't think there's ever been a point this year where I haven't thought he would be a threat at the World Championship race.
Same.
I tend to think that he cycles through performances, and I think he will he will be there on the day to probably give the best performance we've seen of him this year, I would expect.
Mm. No, I definitely, like I said, this racing performance, because we know Sam has been very good at the, like, what I like about him as an athlete is he doesn't just go through the motions, right? He gives everything and he either goes well or blows up. And we've seen him now string together two good races in a row. The timing seems to be quite good, but then it does also make me sort of question, has he peaked a little too early? And not, you know, not wishing it upon him or anything, but just because of how he is a little bit inconsistent. So I'm yeah. I'm very, 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 very looking forward to Kona after this. But no, Sam was brilliant. Let's talk about the women's race, mate.
Nib fucked everyone up, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
She brutalized them. And it was Julie Derron who got the drafting penalty on the bike and then ran her way back up to finish in second, which is remarkable. Taylor Spivey led out the swim, which was just shows the quality of the short course athletes when it comes to that sort of thing. She faded backwards within the race, but certainly for a debut performance from her, having just raced some of the shorter stuff, very impressive. Um, but basically, what happened, mate? They came out of the swim. It was Spivey, Duffy, Perez, Sala first out of the swim, and then Taylor Knibb just rode away from everybody.
I did
Absolutely decimated the field.
I did see points on the bike where they were saying that every time they go through the technical sections, India Lee would pull back some time.
Yeah,
And
she
then the
would.
second they get back on the straight, that gap would just go back to what it was, plus, 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 plus.
Which is something that they acknowledged in the broadcast that apparently Nib has been saying that she has got a deficit when it comes to the technical bike handling and the technical areas, and she's working on that. So when she does, she's going to be even more dangerous because, yeah, as you said, it was during those technical sections that India Lee was bringing back that gap a little bit, and then Taylor Nib would just blast away on the slightly straighter sections, and yeah, so came into the run, and she just ran away with it. To be honest,
So Julie Dunn got a 1 minute penalty.
yeah, she got a drafting penalty, and she was. At one point, she was 3:44 behind Nib on the run, and she was running quite a lot faster. Um, despite getting a drafting penalty, she ran herself up to second place. She finished 1:43 back in second, and she ran 4 minutes faster than Nib on the run. But Nib had given herself that buffer that even with the penalty, if you took that out, Julie was still behind her by over a minute. But I think it shows how much of a threat she is
Definitely.
being able to run through that. So the final standings were Taylor Knibb, Julie Derron, India Lee, Ashley Gentle, and Paula Finley. And shout out to India Lee for that performance. Having seen a DNF in Nice, we discussed it last week on the podcast. You were surprised I'd put her in my top three, but I think the way she DNF'd in Nice, pulling out before the marathon, not having a marathon in her legs, and then coming into this and showing up again was remarkable.
I've really loved to see the year that India Lee is having. Like that, this is, I mean, again, she's had some great performances, but it does really feel like she's had that like level up this year. And yeah, like, I was very upset to see that she didn't have a great race in Nice. So to sort of literally bounce back 1 week later and do this was great. Uh, I was surprised. Again, I mean, I got my picks very, very wrong. And they're like just looking at the gaps, like, 6 minutes to Ash Gentle. Like it's not even like Ash wasn't even, yeah, yeah, Paula Finlay 7 minutes back. Yeah, Anne Haug 7.5 minutes back. Flora Duffy 9 minutes back. Taylor Spivey 12. Oh, again, Taylor Spivey, good to see where she's at. 2 weeks on a TT bike, probably not enough, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, totally. But leading out the swim, showing her quality in that. You did get your picks wrong. I got my picks a little bit wrong, but I beat you by 6 points in the league. I think it's the first time I've beaten you in one of those leagues. Made me really happy,
Congratulations,
man.
mate. Well
Yeah.
done. I mean, the other thing as well that I am, I guess, just struggling a little bit with is I look at some of these athletes that are, we're talking like what, 17 minutes down. And yeah, I don't know, mate. Like it looks to me like what is there's a whole list of athletes here that I didn't even know participate in the race. Didn't see them feature, haven't really seen anything about the race before or after. Um, yeah, is that the I guess this is the thing we talk about, right? Like, is it that Taylor is so much further ahead of every other middle distance athlete that she's kind of making it this way, or is it that they're not showing what else is happening in the race better? Like, what's the struggle here?
I think with this race in particular, we are seeing on the women's side in general with the T100s when Taylor Knibb is in the race, we are seeing such a domination that it's breaking the field up, and you're not seeing a huge amount happening. I think the most interesting element at the end of the race was Julie Derron attempting to run down Taylor Knibb and whether she'd get there or not. The rest of it was just playing out behind. I mean, 10th place Emma Pallant Brown was 10 minutes 16 seconds behind the winner. That's quite the gap. But for a series that's meant to be, show the tightness of long course racing. And that gap, I think, is predominantly down to the bike power of Taylor Knibb and how she can ride away from everybody.
The other thing I want to talk on, and I'm not trying to throw shade here. Again, we're a show that discusses what's happening in triathlon. This is something that has happened in triathlon, and I think it is worth discussing. Was Kat Matthews, because I didn't expect Kat to start this race. I thought, man, she had such a gutsy performance in Nice that, fair enough if she's like, oh, I'm out, I'm not doing it like Laura Philipp did, like Chelsea Sodaro did. She raced, and again, to finish 13th place, I thought was like, bravo, well done. And then I saw she put up I think somebody in our Patreon group shared it and asked
Yeah,
opinions,
yeah.
which was this
There was
idea
a
that she,
Q&A on Instagram and it said, I'm interested in whether doing Ironman World Championships then T100 was the right decision. She said, absolutely 100%. I was not trying to perform at T100 Ibiza. I was fulfilling my T100 race contract. If I would have done physical or mental harm during the race, then perhaps the answer would have been different, but I was confident I had the control to dial it in where needed.
yeah. Now, I just want to have a bit of a chat around this. And again, probably not specifically directed at Kat because you know what, she's right. If that's what the contract says, that's what you do, right? Like,
No,
that's why we
totally.
have contracts. But I still think this comes back to this thing that we're talking about. And this, again, isn't a Kat Matthews thing. This seems to be a fair few of the people on the T100 series is, do we want people who are just rocking up to participate to meet a contractual obligation? Or I think we've even asked this question of, maybe it was what was Charles Adamo a few years ago, and remember that was the idea that once you get these athletes on the start list, that natural instinct to fight and give it everything kicks in. Remember we got some answer like that. I don't know. I saw that and I thought, even if it's true, like just shush. You don't need to. You don't need to say that.
Yeah, I think there needs to be something in those contracts that, you know, you want truth, don't you, in life in general?
Hmm.
But if I owned a sporting series where I was trying to get people to show that they were coming and giving their best, I would have something in the contract that would prevent that kind of discussion.
I just feel like one of the big flaws or oversights with this, and I heard Joe talking about this on his podcast, and I actually agree, is we know that with the injury clause, they have the 2 week blockout period either side. And I can't help but think that they probably should have done something like that, even if you don't want to race a T100 race. You can't do uh, basically 2 weeks either side of a T100 race, whether you're racing that T100 event or not, with the exception of maybe world champs or just negotiate the calendar better. You can't race because we had Sam Long, who didn't race Ibiza, but went and raced Ironman Chattanooga, showed up at the last minute, which again, and he did really well. Congratulations, Sam. Got his slot for Nice and everything next year, won the race. But like that makes me, well, why isn't he at T100? And then I see this, and then I also look at the fact that you got no Laura Philipp, you got no Lucy Charles, who got injured in the lead up to Nice. You got Laura Philipp, the winner. She was there but didn't race. And I wonder if, because we've sort of been quite critical of Laura Philipp, just basically not racing the T100 series this year. I get a little concerned because I saw the T100, PTO roll her out on the broadcast and everything. I'm thinking, oh no, are they going to like, well, she's the world champion. her star is so bright at the moment. We need to forgive all of that, and like we need to keep her involved because she's the world, like, the allure of the world champion. Again, I just feel like there's just not a buy-in. And these athletes who have, sorry, the point I was trying to make is because they've done this other race, they're now unable to do the thing they're actually contracted to do. That seems like a pretty big oversight in terms of, like, you shouldn't be able to have your athletes go, sorry, I can't race your race that you're paying me to be at because of the race that is another competitor to yours. It's inconvenient. Like, it just, like, imagine you saying, you go to work and say, well, sorry guys, I know you pay me a salary to be here, but I actually went to my other job the other day and I, tripped over and hurt myself and I can't do this anymore. Not even that. No, I'm so tired from doing my other job that I can't actually do this job for you that you pay me for. And, you've put all this effort into, and, you're trying to take
It's
our industry
yeah, I mean
forward.
it's I'd say it would go further than that. It's more I'm so tired from going to the park all day and playing because I'm not contractually obliged to do that, but I did it anyway to do
Mm,
the thing that I'm contractually obliged to do. Because they're not contractually obliged to race the Ironman series.
no.
They're not contractually obliged to race the World Championships. They're not contractually obliged to race anything to do with Ironman. It's simply there as an option. The contractual obligations come in with the T100. And, you know, absolutely, the way you say it, Kat was just doing exactly what she had to do. Fulfill that obligation, race the race, turn up, go through the probably very hard motions of racing a T100
Yeah,
race the week after racing the
so
Ironman
impressive that
World
she did that.
Championship Nice. But yeah, I think they haven't quite got the standing or the foundation to allow them to say to the athletes, which I'm sure is what they want to say and what we know they should be saying at some point. You race our series and you race fuck all else.
Mm.
Because the athletes will go, uh-uh, my sponsors care about Kona, they care about the Nice World Championships, they care about the 70.3 World Championships because that relates to selling things to age groupers. So
Do you
those are where my bonuses are. Those are where I want to go and get exposure for my sponsors and for the people who back me.
do you think that if that was the case, because I agree. Like, let's look at Taylor Knibb, and I think Taylor Knibb is an athlete who actually really does want to do the T100 series. Like, you can sort of look and tell the ones that are like Ashley Gentle, right, prioritizes the T100 over others. But do you think that maybe they're looking at like a Taylor Knibb? Like, is it also maybe a factor that Taylor Knibb is so dominant at that distance at the moment that other athletes have almost gone, fucking, what's the point then? Like, do you think that there's that factor? Is there a bit of a, I guess we've seen it, Jan Frodeno, when he spoke with us, and we've heard him talk a lot about the fact that he wanted to go to races, like he wanted his competitors to sort of question. I still remember you interviewing Sebastian Kienle and him saying like he'd already decided he couldn't beat Jan Frodeno. Like, is Taylor Knibb creating that? And are we actually already starting to see that where other athletes are just going, well, fucking, what's the point? I can't beat her. Like, she's just going to win
I
the
mean,
series anyway.
possibly, but the thing with the T100 series is it does pay deep. So
Hmm.
you may not be able to beat Taylor Knibb, but you will be able to rack up points if you're a good athlete to finish in a standing that will pay you a reasonable amount of money.
Is
It
that
ain't
also a
all or
problem
nothing.
though? Is that another problem though, where it sort of rationalizes not giving everything? Like, again, and again, I think Emma Pallant Brown is an absolutely incredible athlete. I'm surprised by I guess, where she's been performing this year. And I don't know, again, I know Emma and Jared, but like, is it a case of, well, it's fine, I still make enough money? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. Should they have the top? We complain that the top gets all the money, but then is Payne Deep in their heads, or I don't know, like going, fuck, well, I still get
Well, I
paid.
mean, no, that comes down to a question of whether we want an ecosystem that can support itself.
Mm.
If you top heavy the winnings, then you go back to a landscape where it's got loads of professional triathletes that can't afford to fucking live.
I just think if I compare this year with the contract that gives the athletes the certainty and the comfort to be able to race and take that financial pressure off, compared to last year where there was no contracts, bigger prize money, those races last year were better, objectively. Like, it was a better experience than this year. And this year was meant to be I just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the contracting doesn't work. Maybe until we get to a point where there is enough buying. And I do blame the athletes for this. This isn't, I mean, a little bit the PTO's fault with how they've structured their contract. But maybe they just go, you know what? No, because I still remember last year, everyone was chomping at the bit to try to get a wild card. Like, every race, people wanted to get in. And now it's not only really difficult to get a wild card, because you've got to go through the World Triathlon system and then there's discretionary or whatever. But I just feel like I don't know. I don't know. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
We,
I
we're
think
going about this a lot.
that wildcard thing is a fucker because going through the World Triathlon Federation and having to apply through federation, then it's a roll down thing. Whatever. That's well boring. I think it needs to be just discretionary. They just be like, oh, do you know who would be really good in this race? That athlete. Fucking bung them in there. And you just create, it's an extra storyline to
We could
be
have got
able to
you in
just
there,
be
mate.
like, choose whoever the fuck you want. World Triathlon make everything more boring, mate.
I had to yeah, I'm trying to get an athlete into an Ironman pro race at the moment, and it's so funny because short course athletes don't like have a pro card, right? They're part of the federation to go through the thing or whatever. So trying to, you know, ask the federation for the pro card takes a little while, blah blah blah, and then going to Ironman saying, "Hey, look, we know we have to do this process, but is there any way that we can put this athlete on the list and then get you the?" And they're like, "No, no, we need the pro card, blah blah." And I'm thinking, here's a photo of the athlete racing the Olympics. Like, if you're concerned about them being a professional triathlete, there it is. Like, yeah, I do find that whole sort of ecosystem around the World Triathlon and the Ironman triathlon, like bureaucracy, a little bit funny in the way that they are, you know, slow moving and a bit boring is correct. But
On the
yeah,
women's side, the standings, there are more gaps in the current standings at the moment, with Ashley Gentle leading in 92 points, India Lee in second with 74, and Taylor Knibb in third with 70. Taylor Knibb has got work to do, but I don't think it's work that will be too much of a problem for her. Eh?
I also think the other thing that we didn't really touch on last week, but I do want to is like Kat Matthews has done an incredible job this year. Incredible of, you know, she's going to win the Pro Series, the Ironman Pro Series. She's going to finish extremely high in the T100 series. And apart from that little niggle at the start of the year in Miami, she's done so relative, you know, not gotten injured, not gotten sick, or maybe she's got sick, but like I wouldn't have if you I think at the start we were sort of saying these athletes that say they're going to try to do both. Like, come on. Kat's proved us wrong, man. She's done a very, very good job at balancing both series and doing really well at both. Like, bravo.
Interestingly, with Van Riel and Nib, they still have to race two more races rather than go down the average score route because the wording in the rule
Before the
was that,
Olympics.
yeah, if you hadn't raced a T1, the athletes who had not yet competed a T100 race would be able to take advantage of the
Average thing.
the Olympic athletes avenue. But Nib and Reel, who both won in San Francisco for the Olympics, still have to compete in two more races other than go down the average score route. So we're going to see them having to race more than the other Olympians did.
Yeah. So because I think the Olympians were originally meant to do three, not four races like the others.
Yeah.
And yeah, because they've done one
The
already,
grand
that
final's been removed. So
there's only the two
athletes
left.
who compete at the Olympics would be allowed to take their average score from two completed T100 races and count it as the third event. But that was because there were only two more races to come, Ibiza and Las Vegas, before the revised final showdown in Dubai on the 16th, 17th of November. Following Paris, the likes of former Olympian Flora Duffy, Taylor Spivey, and Julie Darren, who won individual silver, just had to race Ibiza and Las Vegas, then take advantage of the score to count as their third race.
Does Julie Darren have a
But
wild card? Like a contract?
I'm not sure. But the wording was that if they hadn't competed a T100 race, so because Van Riel and Nib had already competed one,
They have
having
to do
won in San
Vegas.
Francisco, that voids their route here.
Good. I want them to race Vegas. Fuck them.
Yeah, same.
Get out there. That's how it should be. Um, yeah. I mean, they still have to do the same races that Flora and Taylor do. They've just already got one in hand. So that's how it
Yeah.
should be. I think that's fine.
So before we move on to anything else, I think we should have a chat about Katie Zaferes, eh?
I think we should. Let us talk about the fact that Katie Zaferes has this week, quite surprisingly to me, announced her
And to
retirement.
me, mate.
Yeah.
And to me, I was gobsmacked actually. I thought she was going to go on to race middle distance and long distance but no, she wrote on her social media channels, it takes a lot of courage to realize the familiar and seemingly secure to release the familiar and seemingly secure to embrace the new. But there's no real security in what is no longer meaningful. I'm butchering this. There is more security in the adventurous and exciting. For in movement there is life, and in change there is power. There's a quote that I've loved for a while, but only recently has become one that is resonating in a personal way again. After Tokyo, I felt there was more in me as a professional athlete. After these past 2 years, I've now realized I've given it my all at this level in my personal endeavor. Supertri Toulouse on Sunday will be my final race. I'm finding that my heart isn't in it like it needs to be. There's a part of me that still wants to love it and wants to want it. However, the most telling part is that I'm okay with the fact that I don't. Other things are starting to excite me more. While 11 years might seem short to some and long to others, for me, it's perfect.
Wow.
Good on you, Katie.
Yeah.
What she has brought to this sport is fantastic. She's a hell of a person. She's a lovely human being, and she's achieved some fantastic results over the years.
Truly, like, yeah, absolutely has. Uh, there is that part of me where I'm a bit disappointed because I've always really, and I've been quite vocal, I think, in the past about how good I expected her to be at middle distance. We did see her race that was at the Collins Cup she did a couple of years ago in Shamaran, where she sort of wet her
Yeah,
whistle a little bit at it. And
yeah,
she's,
yeah. Rocked up on a TT bike without a bike fit, I think, and didn't have the best of days.
I know, I just, yeah. But I mean, yeah, congratulations on what is an absolutely fantastic career. Uh, yeah, I'm sure that we're going to see her and Tommy still around the triathlon scene over the coming years. But yeah, Toulouse this weekend, her final pro race. I think it is fitting that she finishes in a Super League race, considering she was the queen of Super League for so
Absolutely.
long.
And, it must be me and you've got no experience of it, but it must be, the percentages are so small when you're at the top level like that. And if you lose that will to want to do it anymore, that's that final 0.01% that will mean you're never going to win.
I mean, even for me going through, some of the guys that I work with are really at that point right now where they're looking to transition to, well, not even necessarily looking, they've had to have those long, hard thoughts about the future of their career. And, are they going to continue to try to race short course, or are they going to make that transition up to longer stuff? And it ain't easy because the other thing that we fail to understand is that they really are basically two different sports because it's the World Triathlon circuit is like a big family. They all know each other. You've got the federation support, you've got the federation sending their physios and whatnot with them, and the team organizes a lot of the stuff for you. Once you go to middle long course racing, it's team you. Like you don't have
Yeah.
that. You don't
You
have
are
that
your own
same.
limited company all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that a lot of athletes sort of struggle, and I do always find it because we always talk about the pathway, right? You're younger, you do short course, you go through it, so you get a bit older, a bit slower. You transition of to long distance racing, which has the trend has bucked recently, but there are still a handful of athletes that you see that don't make that transition. And again, I don't have the statistics, but the main ones that come to mind for me are a lot of women. I think of Gwen Jorgensen. I think of, well, now Katie Zaferes. I think of Emma Snowsill. These athletes that I would have loved to have seen, you know, transition up to long course, and they don't. They just go, no, you know what? Vicky Hollands is a good example. We saw Vicky won a race recently, but Vicky's another one that I probably would have expected to start that transition to long distance after coming back from the birth of her child, and has gone back to short course. And yeah, it is what it is. And like I said, it doesn't matter. Katie's Ferris, I just want to, again, celebrate her. What an athlete, what a career. Sport will be worse without her in it, much like, all the others, because we are losing some big names this year, mate. Like we've had Danny go, had Javier go, we've got Katie going. We lost Jan last year, not lost, retired. Sebi's
Yeah,
gone.
it feels like our generation of athletes is retiring.
It is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to get more and more and more of this. But as we say, there's always the next generation to come through and replace them. So yeah, well done, Katie. Should we talk about why high and then we can move on to Super Try if you like?
Why high happened? I didn't watch it. Did you watch it?
I watched the men's race, or I watched a fair bit of the men's
Yeah.
race. I've missed the women's race. Oh no, did I? I think I maybe did watch the women's race. Obviously made a big impact. I did. I watched the races. I did indeed.
On the men's side, Alex Yee took it out ahead of Leo Begier, Miguel Hidalgo, Alberto Gonzalez Garcia, Vincent Louis, Luke William, and Hayden Wild in seventh place.
Correct. Alex Yee got off the bike and just
Yeah.
destroyed them. Like absolutely just decimated them. And again, we've seen him he came out and he won that first super race and then just vanish for the rest of the season. And I know that he said that he's found it quite tough post Paris, which is something that we always factor in when we're talking about athlete performance post a major games. So to see him come out and just absolutely destroy them. And the thing that I loved about Alex's performance is So how this race basically worked, it group out of the swim, and then a decent sized group. Hayden Wild was back, mate. Like he was, he could not close the gap to the chase group, which we like that. Hayden was on the back foot this time. Hayden had the same sort of race that we see Alex and that have, the last few weeks at Supertri. But a little breakaway happened, and Alex was in the breakaway. Like this idea that Alex is just this pack rat who, sits in and runs. And we've, I think around the Tokyo Olympics time, I used to be quite critical saying I don't like the way he races. He has evolved so much as an athlete that he is a true triathlete now. Like he is swimming, right up there. His bike is front pack and he's able to take turns and, go in a breakaway. And then he just drops the most dominant run in the field at the moment. And that's what we saw, just a complete dominant, like literally from the first kilometer of the run, it was an individual time trial basically. And at that point, I was like, oh, I'm not as interested in this anymore. Like I think I said, I've never seen a race go from being so good to so boring so quickly just because of the domination of one athlete. Uh, One thing that is worth noting is World Triathlon deserves some credit for this course. I thought the course was exceptional. The bike course had hills, had technicality. Like it was great to see them actually putting in a tough bike course rather than the pancake flat loops that we see them do all the time.
Mm.
Uh, but man, Alex here is just in another postcode to everybody else.
Yeah, and Hayden Wild struggled, didn't he? He said afterwards that it's days like these teach you the biggest lessons in racing. You give up or keep pushing? And went through my mind a couple of times when things weren't right. I was super excited about this course, but it was tough and it suited me well having a front group swim. It was perfect setup for me very well, but being a little bit off the back in the last 200, 300 meters of the swim put me on the red line limiter for too long. Jumping on the bike straight away, I didn't feel like myself. To close the little 2 to 3 second gap, which continued to put me in the red zone too long before the first climb. So basically, yeah, he just blew backwards and didn't have the race he wanted. But I mean, it's been a long season for that man.
It certainly has. Yeah, just yeah, lots of. I mean, Max Stapley was up there, and I think 11th in the end. Again, I really like to see how Max is going this year. Uh, yeah, that was the men's race. Again, Matt Hauser, I expected to probably be further up. Matt is very hot and cold. He's either on or he's way off.
Yeah.
But Hayden literally ran through, a lot of people to get that top 10 finish. And yeah, he's such a good runner. But yeah, I think that, and then the problem we'll talk on is that we then don't get the repeat this weekend in Toulouse because Alex, he has jury duty, I think. So he's not
Oh,
racing.
really?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
not racing
gutted.
Toulouse. But yeah, that was the men's race. The women's race, mate. What happened in the women's race?
Lisa Turch took it out ahead of Beth Potter, Georgia Taylor Brown, Tanja Newbert, and Kate Woff. Gwen Jorgensen in sixth, which is a good result for her.
Her best finish, I think, in a WTCS race since she came back. Uh,
Yeah.
Now this same thing. Like Lisa Tersh has always, she was I think I had her picked as a wild card podium for the Olympics. Like she is one of those athletes I think that is she's on the precipice. Like you have to pay attention. She just executed really really well. Uh, Beth Potter much seems to be much better at the slightly longer stuff than the Super Tri stuff because we just haven't seen her perform at any of the Super Tri events. But you put her back in an Olympic distance race and she's doing this. I'd love to see her do a T100 race actually. And then Georgia Taylor Brown, who is really coming back into form, which is great. But same thing, mate. Just good course. The racing is exciting. I don't
What
really
was
have
the
much.
broadcast like?
It's good. The camera angles and stuff are fine. I mean, I find the commentary horrifically boring, like truly, just the worst. And it's not even their fault, right? Like I just think it's a very BBC way of doing it. They need to have more of those voices, like people on the ground, and there's like so much dead air. And I think the problem with it
Mm.
being in Wehei was it literally was an empty course most of the time. So there's not even any background noise or anything. So it's a very standard, quiet World Triathlon broadcast. I'd love to see them try something different. And I understand they've got their team or whatever, but like just get Will McLoyne to give one a go or something. I think it could add such a cool, interesting dynamic. But I mean, this sort of, we're getting close to the end of the season. I think we've only got the grand final now, which is this month, in fact. Uh, I think Alex, he might actually get his world title because we know that he has not done that with WTCS yet. So I think he could actually get that WTCS world title. He will do what Christian did as well, where he will be the Olympic champion and the World Triathlon
Hang on, did,
Championship
did Christian win the world title? I didn't realize that.
2021. I think that's his most prominent most prominent result, isn't it? That's what he will be remembered for. Everything else,
Yeah,
when he departs this earthly plane, and his tombstone sits there, it will be like Christian Blumenfeld, 2021 WTCS World Champion, and then the other 67,000 things that he's won in very fine print underneath it. But yeah, that's definitely what people remember him for, especially in 2021. That is the
yeah,
performance of the year for Christian.
yeah,
Uh,
totally.
yeah, well done.
And then we're off to the land of the sausages, aren't we?
It's a very weird way to introduce Toulouse, but I'll allow you to go with it.
Well, it's famous for very high quality sausage production, mate.
I'm aware of the Toulouse sausage. I've had a Toulouse sausage and it was very tasty. Uh, we are at Toulouse. Race weekend is imminent, and it is the best short course on the field on the circuit.
Yeah.
I love this race. This is the Supertri race that I look forward to the most. I really love this event, and I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, so it's on Sunday, the 6th of October, with women's race at 12:05 local, men's race at 13:20 local. On the women's side, we've got Beth Potter. Brownlee Racing is consisting of Beth Potter, Jess Fulgar, Alice Beto, and Miriam Casillas Garcia. Crown Racing has got Cassandra Brogran, Georgia Taylor Brown, Kate Woff, and Barbara de Koning. Podium Racing has got Jenny Leher, Fanny Salza, Vittoria
J-
Lopez,
Jean
and
Lahair.
Lily Perrier. That's what I said. Stars and Stripes has got Kate
Jean.
Zaferes, Taylor Spivey, Katia Saar, and Emma Lombardi. On the men's side, Brownlee Racing has got Johnny Brownlee, Connor Bentley, Sergio Baxter Cabrera, and Jack Wills. Crown Racing has got Hayden Wild, Vincent Louis, Max Stapley, and Bastille Thorne.
Vettel.
Podium Racing has got Matt Hauser, Leo Biget, that's what I said, Kenji Nina, and Emil Holm, legend. Stars and Stripes has got Chase McQueen,
Wait,
Pierre
hang on,
Lecor,
what?
Vasco Velasa, and
No.
Tim Helwig.
Emil's racing Ironman Barcelona this weekend. So he ain't
Well,
racing.
he's on this fucking start list, mate.
Emil, you're gonna have to give us the inside scoop, mate. I thought you were doing your first Ironman this weekend. Maybe he's gaslit us all. He's playing some
Yeah,
sort of
maybe.
game. That's
Maybe. In
good.
fact, now you say that, I do remember seeing on his Instagram that
He's been all about that
that he
TT,
was
mate. He's definitely doing Barcelona. He's 100%. I think that must be the start list from London or something, or they've made a mistake. Unless he's
yeah,
been, maybe they just wrote him a check. We're just going to put zeros until you say yes. And he's gone,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yes, I'll do
That's how
it.
triathlon works, isn't it?
Except the problem with triathlon, it
Pays all the
starts at
fucking
$1
money.
and then it goes $10 and then it goes $100 and then it goes 1,000. And most athletes go, yeah, I'll do that. So,
So it's an enduro race again, as with all the races this year in Super Tri.
yeah,
So it's three back-to-back triathlons, swim, bike, run in that order with no breaks in between. And yeah, like you say, it's one hell of a course, this one, isn't it?
it really is. It's Hayden Wild. Hayden Wild's going to win this thing. Unless there was something underlying wrong, maybe he does have a bit of a bug or something. But unless it is that, you've got Alex Yee out. I just can't
Hayden's
see.
going to come raging back in with a fuck you to the world based on
Yeah.
his his Wehei result. And he's leading the standings on the men's side. Hayden Wild with 44, Matt Hauser in second with 35, and Vincent Louis in third with 28. On the women's side, Georgia Taylor Brown is leading with 44. Her results this year entirely match Hayden's like for like. Janina Hare on
Jean.
29th and Jean,
Jean
I can't
Leher.
say it. Taylor Spivey in third on 37. Jean
I
Leher.
I what was I going to say? You completely throw me off then with that mispronunciation.
You were going
Uh,
to say his,
no,
then.
that's what I was going to say because we've seen, and again, I haven't had it confirmed, or maybe I have, but like we've seen that the Crown Racing team have probably changed the way they race to eliminate Alexi, isolate him on the bike, disrupt his swim so that he's not in that front pack and can't bridge back up. You remove Alexi from this race, and we're going to be able to see the tactics of that team in particular, who are leading the series, shift to well, it's an all out, let's just all give it our best performance. And I'm very keen to see how that goes because I think that we've seen maybe the Maxes and the Vettels pull back a little bit. Vince has been brilliant. And again, after the fifth place in Waihi, I'm keen for that. Plus, it's a French. We know the French like to elevate on their home soil. Did you say Cassandra? Is Cassandra on the start list?
She was. Whether that, based on what you just said about
Yeah,
Emil, though, whether that
I
start
think
list is correct or not,
she
but
would
she is
be.
on the start list.
She's going to win this thing. I think. I know that we've seen Georgia win in it. I just think again that French thing, the Olympic champion in France, race in a race. I think that we're going to see. I think that what you're talking about, that pressure pre-Olympics, I think is completely because she's got that success now, and I think instead it's going to
Yeah.
be this
Oh,
huge
she's riding a wave of confidence
push
without
behind her.
question.
I mean, here we are. So the season is this is the penultimate race. We've only got the grand final after this, but like, how are you finding Super Try? What are
I'm
your
really
thoughts?
enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I love watching it when it's on. I love the broadcast. I love the commentary. I think it's really interesting, exciting racing. I don't mind the short shoots and things like that. I think it all adds to the dynamic. The one thing I'm not particularly keen on is what am I not particularly keen on? It's gone out of my head.
You tell
That
me,
was
mate.
weird.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I think you just
I
had to
was
strike me
building
there.
up to my point all through that sentence. What am I not particularly keen on, mate?
I don't know. You've got to tell me. I'm sitting here with the anticipation is absolutely killing me, mate.
Oh, I'm not particularly keen on it being the enduro every week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd agree with
I
that.
think I liked it when I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, but I would enjoy it more. I think if they shook it up and they did different. That's what I enjoyed about Super League so much. Was one week it was this type of racing, then it was that type of racing, then it was the knockout one, or whatever. All the different variations they had. I wish they still had those.
One of the things we always talk about with Super Try, Super League, whatever you want to call it, is that they do progress, right? Like they don't stand still. They are always trying to look at ways to improve things, to innovate, to make things a bit different. Do you feel that innovation this year? Like, if you compare last year to this year, and I know the obvious big change is the team franchise model, which I don't actually think, like, take out the ownership structure and all that stuff away. I don't think has actually really impacted the racing so much. But do you see much of an evolution from Super Try last year to this year?
Not really.
I'd agree.
Yeah,
I think it seems very almost like for like in a lot of ways. I know that they got rid of the
kind of like
animals
it's
and
settled into what it wants to be for a minute. And don't
yeah,
get me wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw further evolutions from them further down the road. They've earned a bit of grace, I think.
I think that what I would say is I haven't loved the first two race venues. I didn't love the American legs of Super Try compare. I mean,
No,
it's the same
no,
with
no, no.
Malibu, right? We always said Malibu was like racing around a car park, and yeah, I do find that again, this isn't America's fault, but I think it is just when you directly compare it to the race that they have in Toulouse, and the race they have in London, which are two of the best venues for short course racing in the sport, full stop. It does like the contrast becomes even more extreme. So
America is a beautiful country in places, but their population centers are not particularly pretty.
yeah, they're just very uh, well planned,
Boxy.
well
Yeah,
planned
very.
out, good
Yeah,
for
yeah. They
efficient for
haven't
moving
got.
large numbers of people around, right? Not necessarily for
Yeah, they haven't got
creating.
the intricacy you find in some European cities, for example, or the history, which makes moving people around very difficult because you're on windy roads, but it makes it a very attractive setting for certain types of racing or sitting and having a beer.
I still think we're going to see more of it. I know that Supercharge as an organization own a few more races in America, so I expect we're going to see more, not less.
Mm.
I think with the Olympics coming up there, I think we're going to see something. Yeah, I don't think we're going to probably see the same sort of course we've seen in Paris, yeah, in LA in 2028. But I mean, to me, at this point, I think the men's series is all but done, unless barring some tragedy. I think Hayden Wilder's going to get this thing out. And what the interest for me has definitely switched to is that team racing, which again goes back to the idea of the progress and the innovation we spoke about, because um, you know that is a new thing, and how close it is at the moment between podium racing and crown racing. That is the thing that is exciting to me. The fact that we're having crown racing are basically winning every single event, and the fact that the gap in points is still quite close is making it quite an exciting sort of end to the season, which is what you want because I know that like Macca and that would probably want crown racing to be so far ahead now that it's not even in question. But as a spectator, you want it to come down to the grand final. You want it to be that like who wins, and they do it better than World Triathlon because the points are much more simple. Like fuck knows, I couldn't tell you. I still to this day don't understand how the point system works for World Triathlon, whereas the Super Tri and even the T100 point system being much less, much more simple, is easier to follow. So there's that as well. I think that the team thing is definitely, and I mean to be honest, every year that we've had the team, it has been a very close battle between Crown Racing slash Bahrain Victorious and Crown Racing slash Tim Don's Eagles. So it's always been that Tim Don versus Macca slash MG uh, dynamic. That it is close and it does add like, quite an exciting little thing. So, but yeah, I think Hayden's going to get this year. I think he's going to make up for what happened last year and walk away with the win. The women's race or series overall, I'm a little less certain about. Georgia probably, but I still think Cassandra could win the next two and cause a bit of an upset. So
I tend to agree.
yeah, so that's that, mate. I'm looking forward to Supertri though. And then yeah, that's sort of it. I think we're gonna wrap things up for this week. But just before we do, we are gonna do a bonus episode in the next probably early next week. And the plan being that when we do that, we're gonna go through my marathon because I've had a lot of people send questions about it. This isn't the podcast for that. I think this is a podcast more about pro wrestling. Oh, sorry, Ironman Chattanooga. We do need to talk about Ironman
Oh
Chattanooga
yeah.
just a little bit. Sorry. I'm going to put a little thing in because so we saw Sam Long win it in the men's race. The swim was cancelled, which meant that it became an individual time trial. The thing that I'm interested in is why isn't the race getting any attention? Because have you seen how fast the bike splits were? I'm pretty sure it was a
No,
world
I'm
record.
just
I'm pretty sure it was a world record bike split. In fact, I'm almost
really.
positive it was. And
Sam Long did the bike in 3:50:20 and Sarah True did it in 4:20:40.
what did what did Jackson Laundry ride?
Jackson
Um,
Laundry rode a 3:50:01, so
and I
19 seconds faster than Sam Long.
I think that is possibly the fastest ever Ironman bike split. Now,
Interesting.
do you think the reason that nobody's talking about this performance, because this race is very much flown under the radar, is it because it didn't have a swim?
Yeah.
Like, you think
Yeah,
that the
yeah, that
second
that
that
in my opinion is the driving factor why people aren't talking about this, because it essentially was a bike run, and as much as the swim is the smallest element of a triathlon, and it has the least effect on the athletes when it comes to it, but not having a swim will have given a little bit more energy than having a swim, and therefore, in my opinion, it can't be counted as the fastest Ironman bike split.
well, what I want to then
It's like me going out and
hypothesize.
doing a TT on my own and claiming it as the fastest Ironman bike split.
Well, let's look at this though. So Sam Long won the race in 6:32. Okay. Now, if let's say the swim happened, it's a tight assisted swim. So you're probably looking at for Sam Long, let's say 45, let's say 45 to 50 minutes. Okay. So if hang on, where's the results? Sam won it in 6:32. So if we add 45 minutes to Sam's 6:32, we're at a 7:17. It would have been a new Ironman world record by some margin. Like that's what I
Wasn't
mean,
though.
right? Sorry?
Wasn't though, was it?
No, but I mean to say is like that's why I think if you look at the actual performances, um, mate, like they're some pretty good racing over in Chattanooga. Cody Beals as well. That 2:38 marathon to come home in second place was
Yeah, yeah. What were Joe's times? Joe did came in sixth, didn't he? Good on him. Well done, Joe.
rode a 4:55, I think, and ran a 2:45. Mate, talking with Joe after the race, super positive.
He rode a
Uh,
3:55, surely not a
3:55. Sorry, that's
4:55.
that's what I meant. Um, I think the thing with Joe was he just needed to execute a race. All the
Yeah.
things we sort of, and he did. And he just said it just wasn't fit enough, didn't have enough of a build, but really, really positive steps. So watch out for the rest of this year where Joe Skipper comes, oh, sorry, next year where Joe's back. I think we worked out what's going on, which is good.
Did he
But
get a
just,
penalty?
yeah, he was telling me about this, got a blocking penalty. He was at the front of the race because he rode it up to the front and then didn't even know there was anyone behind him and got a blocking penalty. And it was because so do you know there was like a hurricane that hit the US? So Chattanooga had all this
Mm.
rain in the lead up. So the road was covered in puddles and he was avoiding a puddle, is what he tells me. And they said he was blocking.
Huh.
I always thought blocking penalty was if you tried to pass someone and didn't. That was called blocking. I didn't think it was for like, and he said if somebody had a call that saying they're trying to pass, he would have moved over, but he just didn't realize. So yeah, I think that's a pretty silly penalty, but
Yeah.
all positive. And Sam Long, as I said, good to see him get a Ironman victory. And even myself is doing the air commas. Um, and then yeah, Sarah True and the women. Well done.
But I mean, yeah, you take the swim away and Sam Long's right there, and he,
We
as we
always,
saw.
as we always said, right? I'd love to put on one of these races with all of the real the real bike runners. Make it a swim, make it an upstream swim, so they have to swim against the current, so they all get out absolutely fucked. And then yeah, do it at Chattanooga next year, but make them swim the opposite way. Start the bike start transition up where the bike is. That would be cool. Yeah, that's it. As I said, we're going to record that bonus episode in a couple of days. We'll talk about the marathon, all that other stuff, Jim. But if people want to find out more about Talking Triathlon, what do they need to do?
If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at T414 on Insta, and I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Find us across all social networks at Talking Triathlon on Instagram, and we are no longer on Twitter. If you join the Patreon group, you'll get access to the monthly bonus episode and the social group and the WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group is what keeps me sustained throughout the week.
I deleted my Twitter account this week. I'm done with them.
Yeah, I'm
Done
doing
with
the
that
same.
platform.
I'm doing the same. It's a cesspool.
Yeah, it's no good. Yeah, YouTube guys, if that's where you can go, give us your thoughts about. Maybe tell us what you think about the T100 contract situation. Do you think it is? Is it working? Is it not? Like, what would you improve? We're nearly over this year. What are some of the key learnings? And then let us know what you think is going to happen with Supertri this weekend. But Jimbo, until then, mate, I'll catch you later.
Cheerio.